Evet, cümleten selamünaleyküm sevgili YouTube izleyicilerimiz. Bugün The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe oynuyoruz. Türkçe yamalı bir şekilde oynuyoruz. Türkçe çevirimiz var. Çevirimizi Hangar çeviri yaptı. Şu anda beta sürümündeyiz. Yayınlandığı zaman YouTube'da sabitlenenlere zaten linkini de bırakırım. Hangar ekibine de buradan teşekkür ediyorum. Herkese iyi seyirler. Başla. Haydi bakalım, oyunumuz başladı. Oyun çok güzel. Kesinlikle kaçırmayın. Mükemmel bir oyun. Oyun tamamen seçenekli ve tamamen değişen bir oyun. Oyun sürekli değişiyor.
Stanley worked for a company
Alt yazıyı mı açmayı unuttum? Tamam.
in a big building where he was
Odaklanın, çok güzel oyun.
427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly.
Bu oyunda spoiler yer miyiz? Ona göre abone modu alalım.
Stanley was
Hayır, bunun Türkçe dublajı yok arkadaşlar. Bu yeni oyunu. Karıştırmayın.
And then one day,
Eski
something
oyunda
very
var.
peculiar happened.
Bu Ultra Deluxe.
Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
O zaman abone modu alalım.
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour
Aha.
when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi.
Aleykümselam.
Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete
Evet, Ryu.
isolation.
Ryu, evet.
Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Şimdi bakın, burada olay şu. Dinleyici adamı dinlemek zorunda değiliz. Dinleyici adam bir hikaye sayıyor. İstersek uyarız, istersek uymayız. Mesela dedi ki kalkıp ofisinden çıktı dedi, değil mi? Çıkmıyorum amına koyayım.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for
Anladınız mı?
No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Mesela bu birinci sonumuzdu. Bu bir tane son. Bu farklı bir sondu herhalde ya da bilmiyorum. 428 numara dene. Açılmıyor. 429 açılmıyor.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Toplantı odasına gidecek dedi ama ben
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a
evet,
trace
kimse
of
yok
his
bak, gördünüz mü,
co-workers.
terk edilmiş.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Bunu da kapat baba, elektrik gitmesin. Tamam. Devam baba, burada bir şey yok. Tüm elektronik cihazları kapatacağım. Aha, o ne lan? Bir şey oldu. Printer'a bir şey mi gönderdim? Printer'a bir şey gönderdik herhalde Johnny. Devam edelim. Gaspara pizza ilk arayan 5 kişi için pizzalar yola çıktı. Afiyet olsun. Helal olsun.
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
Gaspara kalp. Teşekkür ederiz bu arada ince hareketinizden dolayı. Sağ olun. Alan arkadaşlara da afiyet olsun.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Hayır, sağdan gideceğim.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Var mı burada bir şeyler etkileşime geçebildiğimiz? Yok herhalde. Biri mi ölmüş lan orada?
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating.
Bak şu an bizde
that
daşak
even
geçiyor
though all
adam.
your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Ayık ol koçum. Oyunun amacı böyle...
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on
Solundaki
his
ilk
left.
kapıyı yönet. Bak bu sefer dinleyeceğim adamı. Dinleyip dinlememek bizim elimizde. Tamamen de işte döndüm.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Tamam, dinleyeceğim adamı.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Bir iş arkadaşıyla anlaşmazlık nasıl çözülür? İçinde burada şeyler. Bak hepsini çevirmişler, görüyor musunuz? Adamların ince çeviriye bak. Bak her şeyi çeviriyor. Trende ne var? Bak çizgiler. Ya bunlar kolay değil ha. Harbi kolay değil oğlum. Sadece altyazı değil. Buradan devam edelim.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Gitmeyeceğim amına koyayım.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet.
Seslendirme bu oyunda yok
No
arkadaşlar.
reason
İlk
to
oyunda var.
still be here.
Bekleyeceğim amınım. Ne olacak? Bekleyeceğim abi. Adamı dinlemek zorunda değiliz. Oyunu bozacağız.
It's baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Bu oyun inat oyunu, evet. Adamı dinlemeyeceksin her yerde. Kafana göre ne yapmak istersek. Ben burada
Are
duracağım.
you really still in the broom closet?
Evet, buradayım.
Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
Bunun için duruyorum.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
Pengboz, siz karar verin ona, ben bir şey diyemem. Kankim, sizin de
Maybe
cebinizde
to
şey
you
olur.
this is somehow its own branching
Senin
path.
şeyiniz, Johnny'm.
Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite."
Gel lan gel. Daşak
I
geçiyor
hope
bizde.
your friends find this concerning.
Gel. Dalga geçiyor bak, görüyorsunuz değil mi? Burada duracağım baba.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Bak nasıl sinirleniyor, görüyor musun? Kuduruyor.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, The responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby?
Oğlum
The
nasıl
person
kuduruyor
at
bak.
this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and
Tamam
instruct
çıktım
another
sus be
human to
sustum
take their place,
çıktım.
making sure they understand basic first-person video
Çıktım,
game
tamam.
mechanics
İyi oynarım
and filling them
CS:GO.
in on the history of narrative
Hepsini
tropes
biliyorum,
in
CS:GO
video
oynarım.
gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of
Tamam,
this
tamam,
game
çıktım,
is
çıktım.
not lost on. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a
Sürekli
single
döngüdeyiz
moment
bak.
for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet
Harbi
when
lan.
he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind
Evet.
him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look
Evet.
pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Evet.
No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
Geriye doğru gidemiyorum
he
işte.
imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field.
Aa, uçuyoruz
And
lan.
it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my
Evet.
head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream.
Aha rüya değil diyor bak.
Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to
1-2-B4 aklınıza
After
dursun.
all, he knew for certain beyond a
1-2-B4.
doubt that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
Aleykümselam.
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my
Aleykümselam.
job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am
Uyan amına koyayım.
okay.
Ayda. Bu sefer terse mi? Dur bakayım. Aha.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Öldük amına koyayım. Instagram'a bakarım
This is
dostum,
the
şimdi
story
değil.
of a woman named Mariella.
Mariella diye
Mariella woke
birinin...
up on a day like any other.
Mariella
She
mı?
rose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of
Lan bu
work.
ne?
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously
Doğukan, hoş
crazy.
geldin.
This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and
Yondur,
what
hoş
isn't.
geldin.
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
Oyunu oynayacağız oğlum
Then she
zaten.
remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life.
Hayır,
She
bitmedi
had no
arkadaşlar. Bu
time
oyunun
for
bir
this.
sürü şeyi var.
So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Bu birinci şey oldu bizim şu an. Birinci son. Bu oyunda bir sürü seçenek, bir sürü son, bir sürü farklı şeyler var. Bak başladık. Ama her seferinde değişiyor. Şu an mesela oyunu kapatıp açsam bile oyun değişir, anladın mı? Mesela şu an bir şey yapabildik mi? Burada yapamadık, geldik. Bak konuşmuyor,
All of
gördün
his
mü?
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Var mı bir yerde not? Yok. Gelin patronun oraya bir gidelim. Dinleyelim. Adamı dinleyelim mi? Tamam, sadece adamın dediklerini yapıyorum. Gel. Konuşmuyor.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Tamam, full dinliyorum. Soldan git dedi. Sadece dinleyeceğim.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office,
Tamam.
hoping he might find an answer there.
Geldim.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Tamam. Selamünaleyküm.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Das
Shocked,
para pizza, hoş
unraveled,
geldiniz.
Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN
Aha.
number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Dinleyeceğiz adamı, durun, dinleyeceğiz. Oğlum neler oluyor lan?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to
Türkçe dublajda oynayamazsın. Bu Türkçe dublaj olan oyun değil Talha.
think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Bu ne la? Sarı bir şey var burada.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Dinleyeceğim.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
Kontrol odası
Stanley
işte bak.
thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Bak bir tanesi bozuk. 234. 234. O ne lan, orada bir şey yazıyor. Aspara Pizza 5 kişi abone etmiş. Teşekkürler.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Herhalde bok yedik.
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's
Kontrol ediliyor
control?
Jenny.
Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Yok edecekti. Türkçe dublajı yok. Lohans. Arkadaşlar bana iyilik yapmaya çalıştığınızı biliyorum. Bu oyun, bak tekrar söylüyorum. Bu Ultra Deluxe. Ultra Deluxe'de Türkçe dublaj daha çıkmadı. Sonra çıkacak. Kapatalım. Dinleyeceğiz dedik adamı. Ne farkı var? Bunda daha farklı sonlar, daha farklı. İlerleyince daha da değişiyor.
Chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes.
Aha.
He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command.
Aslında biz kontrol ediyoruz ama yani.
Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold?
Neler var kim bilir.
But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or
Aslında söylüyorlar. Ben söylüyorum.
Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Ya burası da bir kontrol noktasıysa kardeş?
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin. The feeling of liberation.
LoL'ciler gerçek hayatla tanışıyor.
Possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Vay be. Stanley'i kurtardık mı? İlk sonunda kurtardık. Beat the game. First achievement. Beat the game yaptık şu an. Oyunu bozduk. Şimdi başladı. 427.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Şimdi baba, şimdi başka şeyler deneyeceğiz.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, Stanley went around touching every little thing in the
Bak,
office,
buralar
but
değişmiş,
it
gördün
didn't make
mü?
a single difference. Nor did it advance the story in any way.
Bak şu an bir şeyler değişiyor. Bak. Bak. Bak bilgisayar değişti, gördünüz mü? Abone moddayız. Chat bir de yavaş olmasının abone modla alakası yok şu an. Oyunda şu an var mı lan bir şey? Kapıları bir açsam var ya. Yeni içerik mi?
Oh, new content?
Ha.
What does that mean, new content?
Ne oluyor lan? Half-Life şeyi gibi la.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Bakalım.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Aynen öyle. O kadar para verdik.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Oğlum neler eklemişler.
Initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Mostly tedious. It's as if oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Bu ne amına koyayım?
All right.
Taşak geçiyorlar ya.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Dalga geçiyor bizde ya. İşte bu yeni içerik. Eğleniyor muyuz? Zıplamayacağım sonuncuyu amına koyayım. Şerefsizlik değil mi? Ya da zıpla ya. Zıpla ya.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness.
Oyunu yapanların kafa farklı çalışıyor bak.
I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and
Yok, denedim
jumping.
zıplamayı.
Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Zıplayamıyorum hala. Yeni içeriğin tadını Ne?
That's it?
Siktir
you've
lan.
got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley?
Taşak
This
geçiyorlar
is
bize
what
ya.
happens when greedy video game developers with no
Oo,
respect
laf
for their fan
sokuyor.
base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason
Ara
other than to make an
lafı
easy
soktu.
dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new
Ağzında
content,
hiçbir
I'm
şey yok var
afraid.
mı ya?
It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about?
Hayır ya.
No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time
Hayır
together
istemiyorum
like always.
istemiyorum. Para verdim.
What do you say, friend?
Hayır no. No yeni içerik istiyorum amına koydum onu. Asik değil. Şimdi yeni içerik. Ha bana böyle gel. Ana bak eski ana. Biz zaten ilkini çok oynamıştık. Ben burada takılırım şimdi. Bakalım. İlkini biz 2,5 saat falan oynadık. Bayağı bir şey yapmıştık hatırlıyorsanız.
Psst. Stanley.
Efendim?
Come over here. In the vent. I
Geliyorum.
want to show you something.
Tamam. Ne oldu la?
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra
Evet,
Deluxe
hatırlıyorum.
content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret.
Allah Allah.
Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap
Ha
re-release?
özürleri falan.
Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Aga. Aç lan kapıyı. Mozilla Firefox. Oy oğlum bak çeviri böyle yapılır dostum. Gerçek mi lan? Ana! Çeviri
And
ünlem
over
çeviri
here
yaz.
is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the
Sen bize bu
original
oyundan
Stanley
bahset baba.
Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim. It was Persona 3. It was all of them. And now, it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't
Evet
even
ya.
the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Bu ne lan? Hafıza sarayı bakımda. Orijinal remake.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10.
Dayı siktir git, bana ne anlatıyorsun? Yarrağımın kafası, oyunu oynat amına koyayım. Yarrak para
It
verdim.
didn't need anything
Para
else.
verdim, oyunu oynat bana. Ne anlatıyorsun oyunun
New
geçmişini?
content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Biz yanlış bir yere mi girdik ya? Siktir git lan. En büyük zenginlik hafızadır.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Atlayamıyorum ki oraya.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable
Şu an mesaj veriyor yani. Biz aslında tüm yorumlarınızı da okuyoruz. Hepsine önem veriyoruz.
Like a failure.
Boş
like
yapmayın.
I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Bak anlatıyor şu an yenilikleri aslında bak.
And here it is. Go ahead and give... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks.
Aha. Yarraydık.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about...
Konuşmuyor. Küstü. Vallahi
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands.
sus lan. Harbi sustu lan. Last of Us var bugün.
The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end.
Oğlum burayı su basacak. Abi tamam ya yeter, çıkar beni buradan. Tamam, oyuna dönelim. Çıkar beni, oyuna dönelim. Hear me, leave me, leave. Enter the game. Baya ilerliyoruz biz Johnny şu an. Lotta Conti ya, hoş geldin. Aleykümselam. Adam öldü herhalde ya. Asiktir, tuş da kırıldı lan. Ankara mı? Ayıp ediyorsunuz ha Ankara'ya. Ayıp ediyorsunuz Ankara yazanlar. İntikamım alınacak. Konya. Ankara. Arkadaşlar dalga geçmeyin. Gayet güzel. Oy amına koyayım.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Gireceğim lan yine. Hadi bakalım ne oluyor?
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting
Hadi göster.
to show you.
Göster dayı. Oğlum yeni içeriği gösterin artık amına koyayım. Yeni içerik ya.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Her şey 2 demiş.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think?
Daha akılda kalıcı.
Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Bak şu logo güzelmiş, hoşuma gitti. Gördün bak, mantıklı.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Aa! Oyunda adını mı duy? Hadi.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim.
Baba.
I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim. Sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust.
Jim Yılmaz.
Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now?
Yes, I am
Jim. If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Jim.
Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Jim.
Oh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation.
Tamam, Jim'i biliyoruz. Yani yeni oyunda böyle bir şey olacak diyor herhalde, taşak geçmiyorsa. Tamam.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Beleş. Yeni kolay başarımlar. Sonsuz boşluk. Bu yeni mi? Ne o yeni? Onları bulabilir misin? Ananı sikim, bu ne la?
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life. God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Atlama ya sikerim atlama çemberini. Oğlum bu oyunda o zaman bir yenilik yok herhalde ya.
Oh goodness, Stanley, this is fairly awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to the bucket exhibit. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves the bucket. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair now.
Tamam, nerede? Kova nerede kardeş?
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time you saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Amcık.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on. A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2. Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
O ne la? Korku değil ya. Biz oyunu oynayamadan saçma sapan bir yere geldik. O yüzden sıkıldım şu an. Oyunu oynayamadım ki. Korku değil. Çok güzel bir oyundu da biraz ben sıçtım herhalde ya buraya girerek.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay, are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go.
Harbi ya, sürüm 2 olsun harbi, sok bizi be.
Who am I kidding?
Kardeş sok beni ikinci oyun artık.
This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work?
Evet.
I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, this is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Ne oluyor işte bak. Şu an ben çıkarsam buradan devam edebiliyor muyum? Tamam biz bunu oynayacağız işte baba.